Thousands demanding their states ease restrictions so they can get back to work. Governors now unveiling plans to lift lockdown orders. In Florida, some beaches reopened with social distancing guidelines.
Texas Governor Greg Abbott says he plans to reopen state parks on Monday and reopen retail businesses for pickup, delivery, and mail orders next Friday. Interesting developments there. And that's why we want to go ahead and bring in Congressman Dan Crenshaw, member of the House Homeland Security and former Navy SEAL, author of Fortitude, American Resilience in the Era of Outrage. Congressman, good morning to you. Tell me about what's happening down there in Texas.
Well, we're doing what I think we should be doing, which is a staged reopening. You mentioned exactly what Governor Abbott has declared, and we'll have more announcements of what will be open by April 27th. Another thing I would add to that list, which is really important, is allowing more surgeries and procedures to take place in our hospitals. Our hospitals are empty right now, and doctors are putting off important surgeries. These aren't nose jobs we're talking about. Okay, my own father had trouble getting in to get a heart stent in place, so this is some common sense stuff that needs to happen. I hope Texas can lead the way and demonstrate how this needs to go for the rest of the country.
And Congressman, you're right. My mom's a director of nursing at a surgery center in Pennsylvania, and they are not even doing elective surgeries. And a lot of elective surgeries, though, even though it has that term elective, they are still very important to people, and their health, that's the utmost importance to them right now.
Yeah, 100%. There's another public health concern when we start to close hospitals and when we allow the economy to continue to falter. And we have to keep talking about that. That has to be part of the balanced discussion on how we live side by side with COVID-19 within an open economy. We can take risk mitigation measures while getting back to some sense of normalcy. That's what we're doing here in Texas. I think the whole country's can follow suit.
Congressman, we're in a moment of federalism. People are waking up to looking at their state governments and their governors and the way they view the world. In New Jersey, Phil Murphy said, that the Bill of Rights, he wasn't thinking about it when he was making these calls. What's your message to governors as they make these decisions as it pertains to the first rights of American citizens?
First of all, take a civics class. You should always be looking at the Bill of Rights. And also understand which laws are respectable and which ones aren't. People will not follow and respect laws that are not respectable themselves. Use some common sense, okay? You saw in Michigan where they're sectioning off gardening supplies in an open store. I mean, come on, this is nonsense. And of course people aren't going to respect that. And these governors have to think through, what is the connection to stopping the spread with their new law? I mean, it's a very simple question, but they're not thinking through it. And voters should hold them accountable for that.
Well, Congressman, your Lieutenant Governor, Dan Patrick, is holding you members of Congress accountable, saying that you need to get back to work and possibly take a pay cut. Here's what Patrick had to say to Laura Ingraham.
I'm really tired of Nancy Pelosi and Congress because they're not hurt by this. They're at home. They're doing nothing. It's time for them to get back to work. And quite frankly, I think they need to take a half pay cut. In Texas, our senators and our House members and myself make $600 a month. We work 50 hours a week. We have the 10th largest economy. We meet every year. We're volunteer public servants. It's time for Congress to take a pay cut so they feel some of this pain that people at home are feeling, because Congress isn't feeling any pain. The people and the small businesses are.
No.
Get back to work and cut your pay and show that you're with us.
Dan, your thoughts on that? You agree?
He's half right. We do need to get back to work and start and get this PPP program absolutely up and running. I would remind my friend Dan that not all of us have $24,000 refrigerators like Nancy Pelosi. So I understand where he's coming from. He's absolutely right. We've got to get back to work. Not all members of Congress came into Congress with a bunch of money. So just let me remind them of that.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about your new bill that would allow Americans to sue China over COVID-19. Tell us details about this.
All right. So as we see increasing evidence that the Chinese authorities, the Chinese Communist Party, hid this virus deliberately, allowed domestic travel or restricted domestic travel in China, but allowed international travel from Wuhan, disappeared these scientists and doctors who blew the whistle, wouldn't allow our journalists in, wouldn't allow samples of the virus to be shared. There's an increasing amount of evidence that shows that they are culpable. Okay, so what can we do about that? Well, when Americans are wronged, what do? We sue somebody. Well, let's let Americans sue the Chinese government. So this bill would simply change the foreign Sovereign Immunity Act, so that we can actually do that in our courts. We would do it in a select few courts so that it doesn't become overwhelming. And we think this would be a great way for the American people to seek damages against the Chinese government.
I think it's a great idea. What other things should our government be doing as we have this unfortunate moment of exposure of the evil of this communist regime? What more can we do to stare them down, take them down?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of things, and I think there's a lot of political will to do that. It just becomes a technical discussion. You know, another bill that I proposed would not allow Chinese officials who engaged in propaganda during the pandemic to be allowed into the United Nations in New York City. And we have to start dusting off some other old Chinese policies too, talking about protecting our intellectual property from Chinese theft. You know, just protecting our supply chains, bringing those back home for core manufacturing that we absolutely need in this country. You know, this is a conversation that was happening long before this crisis, but I think this crisis shows us that we need to move forward with a lot of these policies.
Can I
Dan,
ask,
quickly.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Julian.
No, I was just going to say, you know, how confident are you that we here in the United States are able to get all of the answers that we need from China as to how this all started, as to how it was able to escape and penetrate the entire world? Do you feel confident we'll get the answers we need?
Well, I feel confident that we need an investigation to do that. Senator Hawley, Congresswoman Elise Stefanik have put legislation forward that would require an international investigation. You know, of course, the Chinese Communist Party is always going to lie and try to cover for themselves. That goes without saying. But that doesn't mean we can't seek out the truth. You know, there are a lot of oppressed people in China, and I bet they want that word to get out. And the truth already is coming out. That's why Senator Cotton and I, he proposed this in the Senate side. This is my bill on the House side. That's why we did this. We want Americans to feel like they have a voice, and that our justice system can be used to actually deliver justice for us.
Hey, Congressman,
Go ahead,
you were
Griff.
on, well, I got to get to this because it's out there and many of us saw it or clips of it. You were on with Bill Maher last night and you had some comments making the rounds. Tell us what happened.
Well, a lot happened. Of course, they make it all about Donald Trump. Listen, the narrative I've seen of late is this, that President Trump has blood on his hands, that they didn't do anything, that they denied the whole thing. And that's just not factually correct. I've created videos on this. We've been very vocal. I've put this out in podcasts. We need to get the truth out to the American people. And when I was on Bill's show, he thought the same thing. And so I just had to stop him and say, look, like, at every point in your timeline, there are other things happening that you're leaving out. And we just point those things out, you know. I like chatting with Bill because it's just a good debate, frankly. And I feel it's necessary for conservatives to go on shows like that and talk about these things. We also talked about elections and waiting in lines, and I correct the record on that. There's so many misconceptions out there that the left just believes, and they just repeat it over and over again, and so they just start to think that those things are true. So it's up to us to actually say, hey, let's confront this directly. This isn't true. Here's the context. Here's the actual facts. And, you know, I love doing it. It was fun. Good
stuff. I can't wait to check out the entire thing. You talk about going on the offense, though, not letting narratives that are false continue. You wrote an op-ed called that it was entitled this, Tactical Retreat from COVID-19 Made Sense. Now let's go back on offense and mobilize. What's the most critical thing right now that we should do to go on offense?
Yeah, well, what I mean by that is we have to live with this truth that we simply have to open up our economy and live side by side with the risks of COVID-19. Now, we can do this safely, all right? There's not this binary choice between perpetual lockdown and actually letting people die. That's not the choice. Okay, we can risk mitigate, and you do it along three factors. Ramping up testing, which we are doing rapidly. Ramping up hospital capacity, which we have done rapidly. You know, that's ventilator production, PPE production, making sure that we have sections of hospitals that are still designated for COVID-19 patients. And third, public education. The public is well educated at this point. I think people can take some personal responsibility, wear a cloth mask, get back to work, maintain 6-foot social distancing. It's a new normal, but we can make this happen. Every single business, every single restaurant can live within this new normal. We have to start trusting the American people, and the American people have to start empowering themselves with the proper tools to risk mitigate. I think that's what that looks like. That's what offense looks like.
Well said. Trusting the American people. That's been the premise of our experiment the entire time. Congressman Dan Crenshaw, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
to be with y'all.